You want us to what? Admiral Sarah Chen's coffee mug stopped halfway to her lips, her expression a perfect mixture of disbelief and amusement. The holographic alien diplomat floating above her desk shifted uncomfortably, its translucent tentacles twisting in what she had learned was their species' equivalent of a nervous fidget. As I said, Admiral, the Galactic Council requests that humanity withdraw from the conflict. The Zoraxian ambassador, Cathul, managed to make the statement sound both apologetic and condescending at the same time, a neat trick for someone whose speech was being processed through 3 layers of translation software. Sarah set her mug down with deliberate care, buying herself a moment to process the sheer audacity of the request. The steam rising from her coffee seemed to mirror her slowly building irritation. Let me get this straight. The Drachnid Empire violates 17 different treaties, launches an unprovoked attack on 3 of our colony worlds, and now that we're actually winning, the Council wants us to… what, just pack up and go home? Cathul's tentacles twisted faster. The Council feels that the human response has been… disproportionate. Disproportionate? Sarah couldn't help but laugh. They glassed New Melbourne. There were 6 million civilians on that planet. Yes, and we deeply regret. And now that we've pushed them back to their own territory and demonstrated that humanity isn't the easy prey they thought we were, suddenly everyone's concerned about proportional responses? She made air quotes with her fingers, a human gesture that always confused the hell out of the Zoraxians. Admiral, you must understand. The Drachnid Empire has been a stable presence in this sector for over 12,000 years. Their miscalculation regarding humanity's military capabilities has created an unprecedented situation. Sarah leaned back in her chair, a dangerous smile playing across her face. Miscalculation, that's what we're calling it now? The hologram flickered slightly as Cathul shifted position. Perhaps if you could explain your strategy. The Council is concerned about some of your tactical choices. You mean like Operation Papercut? Yes! Cathul's tentacles practically tied themselves in knots. The use of thousands of microships to overwhelm Drachnid sensor systems was perfectly legal under interstellar warfare conventions, Sarah cut in. Not our fault they never considered that someone might weaponize civilian courier drones. And the deployment of what you call space shanties? Sarah's grin widened. Also legal. Nothing in any treaty prevents us from broadcasting What Shall We Do with the Drunken Sailor on all Drachnid frequencies for 72 hours straight. Their communications officers actually started singing along by the end. Admiral, please. The Council fears that your creative interpretations of standard combat protocols may lead to dangerous precedents. Oh, you mean like the precedent of attacking civilian populations without warning? Sarah's voice had gone deadly quiet. Or maybe the precedent of assuming that just because a species is relatively new to interstellar travel, there'll be pushovers in a fight. Cathul's hologram dimmed slightly, a sign of distress in Zoraxian body language. The Drachnid Empire has expressed willingness to negotiate reparations. They can express whatever they want from behind their quantum shields. But until they formally surrender and agree to war crimes tribunals, the Third Fleet isn't going anywhere. Sarah picked up her coffee again. Now, was there anything else? Because I've got a battle group to coordinate, and these coffee breaks don't schedule themselves. Admiral, Cathul's voice had taken on an almost pleading tone. Surely you must see that this level of technological innovation in warfare is destabilizing. Sarah actually snorted at that. You mean like our destabilizing tactic of using modified mining lasers as point defense weapons? Or how about the way we destabilized traditional space combat by introducing submarines? Submarines are ocean vessels. They have no place in space warfare. Tell that to the Drachnid flagship that got its engines taken out by the USS Nautilus last week. Sarah's eyes gleamed with pride. Turns out if you modify the hull plating just right and add enough stealth tech, you can make a ship that's practically invisible against the background radiation of space. Who knew? But that's not how space combat is supposed to work. Yeah, well, neither is dropping antimatter bombs on civilian populations. But here we are. Sarah stood up, her expression hardening. Look, Cathul, I'll make this simple. Humanity didn't want this war. We were perfectly happy trading with everyone, sharing our music and introducing the galaxy to pizza. But the Drachnids decided to test us, and now they're learning why that was a mistake. The hologram flickered again as Cathul processed this. The Council fears this may lead to a complete restructuring of galactic power dynamics. Good. Sarah's reply was blunt. Maybe next time someone thinks about attacking a primitive species, they'll remember what happened to the drachnids. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to review the latest reports from our hamster ball squadrons. Your... what squadrons? Oh right, you haven't seen those yet. Remember how everyone laughed when we showed up to the first Galactic Council meeting with artificial gravity technology that used rotating habitats instead of gravity plates? Sarah's smile was pure mischief now. Turns out if you take that same principle, scale it way up, and add some really good inertial dampeners, you can create ships that can change direction instantly by rolling. The drachnids still haven't figured out how to target them effectively. Cathal's tentacles had gone completely still, a sign of shock in Zeraxian body language. Admiral, I must protest. This complete disregard for traditional space combat doctrine is exactly why we're winning, Sarah finished for him. Here's the thing about humans, Cathal. We don't care about tradition when we're fighting for survival. We care about what works. And if that means strapping FTL drives to shipping containers and using them as hyperspace missiles, or developing illogical battle formations based on old video games, or yes, putting hamster balls in space, then that's what we'll do. She walked around her desk to stand directly in front of the hologram. So you can go back to the Council and tell them this. Humanity will end this war when the drachnids surrender, not before. And if anyone else is thinking about testing us, they should remember that everything we've shown so far, that's just what we came up with in the first 6 months of the war. Imagine what we'll come up with if this drags on for years. Cathal's hologram wavered, then steadied. I will convey your message, Admiral, though I fear the Council will not be pleased. The Council's pleasure isn't my concern. The safety of human worlds is. Sarah's expression softened slightly. For what it's worth, Cathal, I hope this ends soon too. I've got a pizza place back on Earth that makes the best pineapple and anchovy combo in the galaxy, and I'd really like to get back there someday. Pineapple and anchovy? Cathal's translator seemed to struggle with the concepts. You humans truly are unfathomable. That's what makes us dangerous, Sarah agreed cheerfully. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to check on our latest project. We're trying to figure out if we can weaponize dad jokes. The hologram flickered out without another word, leaving Sarah alone in her office. She took another sip of her coffee, now slightly cold, and pulled up the latest tactical displays. The drachnid fleet positions were exactly where she expected them to be. They were nothing if not predictable in their formations. Computer, she said to the air, send a message to R&D. Tell them to speed up Project Rickroll. I think it's time we showed the drachnids why humans never gave up on audio-based warfare. The computer chimed in acknowledgement as Sarah settled back into her work. Sometimes, she reflected, the best way to win a war wasn't just to think outside the box. It was to take the box, turn it into a weapon, and then use it to hit your enemies over the head while singing old sea shanties. As she reviewed the battle plans for the next offensive, she couldn't help but smile. The drachnids had made 3 crucial mistakes. They had underestimated humanity's creativity. They had ignored humanity's capacity for spite. And most importantly, they had forgotten that sometimes the most dangerous species aren't the ones with the most advanced technology. They're the ones who look at that technology and think, but what if we used it wrong on purpose? The next few weeks were going to be interesting. She just hoped the drachnids had a sense of humor about being defeated by ships shaped like giant hamster balls while Never Gonna Give You Up played on all frequencies. Then again, if they didn't, that was their problem. Humanity had stopped caring about looking dignified in combat around the same time the drachnids had started bombing civilians. Now they were learning the hard way that there's nothing more dangerous than a species that's willing to throw away the rulebook and get creative with their revenge. Sarah pulled up the specs for their latest innovation. A fleet of ships designed to execute complex maneuvers based on the choreography from something called Gangnam Style. The drachnid tactical computers were going to have an aneurysm trying to predict those movement patterns. Sometimes, she thought, the best way to win a war was to make it so absurd that your enemies couldn't even process what was happening to them. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was being absurd. The computer chimed again. Admiral, the hamster ball squadron is in position. They're requesting permission to begin Operation Dance Dance Revolution. Sarah's grin could have powered a small star. Permission granted. Let's show them why you should never pick a fight with a species that turned their entire military history into memes. As the reports started coming in of drachnid ships spinning in confusion as human vessels performed synchronized dance moves in space, while broadcasting Caramel Dancin' at full volume, Sarah couldn't help but feel a little proud. Sure, it wasn't the most dignified way to win a war, but it was definitely the most human way. And really, that was the point. The galaxy had expected humanity to fight like everyone else. Instead, they got a species that turned warfare into performance art and won battles with weaponized internet culture. If that didn't deserve a humanity fuck yeah moment, she didn't know what did. She took another sip of her now cold coffee and settled in to watch the show. Sometimes, the best revenge wasn't just winning. It was winning in a way that would give your enemies existential crises for generations to come. And humanity? They were just getting started. Admiral Chen, we have a situation. Lieutenant Rodriguez's hologram appeared in Sarah's office, his usually composed face struggling to maintain professional decorum. Let me guess, Sarah sighed, setting aside her fourth coffee of the day. The Drachnids finally figured out how to counter Operation Dance Dance Revolution? Not exactly. Rodriguez cleared his throat. They're trying to fight back with their own cultural warfare. Sarah blinked. They're what now? They've started broadcasting what they claim are their own memes on all frequencies. Well, ma'am, you should probably see for yourself. The holographic display shifted to show what appeared to be a crudely drawn stick figure with the word human written under it, surrounded by mathematical equations that made absolutely no sense. The caption read, "When the bipedal carbon units attempt logical thinking." Sarah stared at it for a long moment. That's it? That's their response to 3 weeks of synchronized hamster ball attacks and weaponized Rick Astley? There are more, Rodriguez said, his voice strained with suppressed laughter. They've been sending one every hour. The latest one is just a picture of their flagship with the text, "Superior vessel is superior," repeated 12 times. Oh my God, Sarah whispered, a grin spreading across her face. They're trying to shitpost. This is the best day of my life. There's more, ma'am. The R&D department has analyzed their transmission patterns and, well, they're using a standard encryption protocol to send these. They're dedicating actual military-grade communication bandwidth to bad memes. Sarah leaned back in her chair, her expression one of pure delight. Please tell me we're archiving all of these. Future generations need to see this moment, when an ancient space empire tried to fight a meme war with the species that invented Keyboard Cat. Already done, ma'am. But there's something else. Rodriguez's hologram flickered as he pulled up another display. We've detected unusual movement patterns in their fleet. It seems they're trying to, recreate some of our tactical maneuvers. The tactical display showed a group of Drachnid warships attempting to perform what looked like a very stiff, geometrically precise version of the Macarena in space. The ships moved with all the grace of drunk giraffes trying to solve calculus problems. Have they... Sarah had to pause to contain her laughter. Have they figured out that our dance-based maneuvers are actually mathematically designed to optimize our ship's momentum and energy distribution while making them harder to target? No, ma'am. As far as we can tell, they think we're just doing it to mock them. Their attempts to copy us have actually made their ships more vulnerable. They're breaking formation in predictable patterns now. Sarah rubbed her temples, though her smile never wavered. So let me get this straight. The Drachnids, a species that's been conducting space warfare for 12,000 years, are now trying to fight us with badly made memes and uncoordinated dance moves because they think that's the secret to our success. Yes, ma'am. The Zoraxian Diplomatic Corps has sent 3 messages asking if this is some kind of elaborate psychological warfare technique they haven't encountered before. What did you tell them? That we would neither confirm nor deny the strategic significance of teaching hostile empires to do the cha-cha slide in zero gravity. Sarah stood up, walking to the window that overlooked the fleet's staging area. The massive hamster ball ships were being prepped for their next mission, their surfaces now decorated with what the crew had started calling war memes. Elaborately painted classical art references, modified to include space battles and dad jokes. Has anyone told the Drachnids that we're not actually winning because of the memes? She asked. That all this ridiculous stuff is just us having fun while our actual tactical innovations run circles around their defenses? No, ma'am. The general consensus among the staff is that watching them try to weaponize their own attempts at humor is too entertaining to stop. Sarah nodded solemnly. Send a message to all ships. Operation Rickroll is hereby suspended in favor of a new strategy. I want every vessel in the fleet to start broadcasting episodes of Earth's Got Talent. But, and this is important, I want them sent with full military encryption and in packets that look like tactical data. Rodriguez's eyebrows shot up. You want us to make them think reality TV is classified military intelligence? Exactly. Let's see how long it takes them to try producing their own talent shows as a countermeasure. Sarah's grin turned slightly evil. And send a message to R&D. Tell them to speed up Project Boyband. I think it's time we showed the galaxy why humanity never gave up on synchronized dancing as a combat technique. Yes, ma'am. Oh, and one more thing. The USS Nautilus reports that they've successfully completed Phase 1 of Operation Dad Joke. Sarah's eyes lit up. They got the quantum pun generator working? Yes, ma'am. They tested it on a Drachnid patrol fleet yesterday. 3 ships immediately retreated after their universal translators tried to process, "Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything." Beautiful. Sarah sat back down, pulling up the latest tactical displays. What's the status on Project Vibe Check? The prototype meme cannons are ready for deployment. The test firing yesterday successfully transmitted the entire This Is Fine comic directly into the Drachnid fleet's tactical network. Their ship spent 2 hours running diagnostics trying to figure out why their warning systems were displaying a dog in a burning room. Sarah nodded approvingly. And the special project I asked for? Rodriguez's hologram grinned. The entire Never Gonna Give You Up video has been encoded into a standard Drachnid naval identification signal. The next time they challenge one of our ships for authentication, well, perfect. Sarah steepled her fingers, looking every bit the master strategist she was. If you ignored the fact that her coffee mug now had a picture of Grumpy Cat on it wearing an admiral's hat. Sometimes I wonder if we should feel bad about this. Then I remember New Melbourne, and suddenly I don't feel bad at all about making an entire empire question their understanding of warfare. Speaking of which, ma'am, intelligence reports that the Drachnid War College has added a new required course, Understanding Human Combat Irregularities and Mimetic Warfare. Sarah actually laughed out loud at that. Please tell me we have footage of their instructors trying to explain tactical applications of Nyan Cat. Better than that, ma'am. They've started requiring their officer candidates to study human internet history. Several senior instructors have had to take stress leave after reaching the section on early 21st century social media. Magnificent. Sarah took a sip from her Grumpy Cat mug. Status of Operation Fresh Prince? Ready to deploy on your order, ma'am. All ships are prepared to transmit the full lyrics of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air encoded as what appears to be critical reactor telemetry. Excellent. Sarah stood up again, straightening her uniform. Send word to all ships. Phase 2 begins at 0600 tomorrow. I want every vessel ready to execute Operation Dramatic Entrance. The synchronized light show while blasting X Gone Give It To Ya, ma'am. The very same. And make sure the Hamster Ball Squadron has their new paint jobs ready. I want the Drachnids to see exactly what humanity thinks of their attempt at meme warfare. As Rodriguez's hologram flickered out, Sarah turned back to the window, watching as maintenance crews finished painting the side of a massive battleship with what appeared to be the Mona Lisa wearing a space helmet and making a peace sign. Somewhere out there, the Drachnid fleet was probably working overtime to understand why their attempts at human-style warfare weren't working, never realizing that they were missing the point entirely. The real secret to humanity's success wasn't the memes or the dance moves or even the weaponized dad jokes. It was the fact that they could do all of that while simultaneously revolutionizing space combat in ways the Drachnids couldn't even comprehend. The silly stuff was just humanity being human. The actual winning was happening behind the scenes while their enemies were distracted by space hamster balls and Rick Astley. Computer, Sarah said, picking up her coffee mug. Send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them Operation This Is Sparta is ready for implementation at their discretion. As she waited for the acknowledgement, she couldn't help but smile. Somewhere in the galaxy, a Drachnid admiral was probably trying to figure out why their ship's targeting computers kept displaying pictures of cats asking, "ICANN has victory." Every time she thought about it, the victory tasted a little sweeter. The computer chimed. Message from the USS Nautilus, Admiral. They've successfully modified their stealth system to project holographic Doge memes onto enemy hulls during close passes. The Drachnid crew of the last ship they encountered reportedly spent 3 hours trying to decontaminate their sensors. Sarah nodded approvingly. Humanity didn't start this war, she murmured to herself, but we're sure as hell going to finish it in style. The next few weeks were going to be interesting. She just hoped the Drachnids had developed a sense of humor by then. They were going to need it. The Drachnid High Command's transmission came during what the crew of the Third Fleet had dubbed Taco Tuesday in Space. Admiral Sarah Chen was in the middle of judging a fleet-wide competition for most creative use of food as psychological warfare when the call came through. Put them on screen, she said, carefully setting aside a report about Project Mariachi. an initiative to replace standard warning klaxons with Mexican folk music that had proven surprisingly effective at confusing enemy targeting systems. The holographic display flickered to life, showing not the expected Drachnid military official, but what appeared to be their equivalent of a marketing team. Their lead speaker, a being that looked like a cross between a lobster and a crystal chandelier, was wearing what Sarah recognized with growing delight as an attempt at a human business suit. "Greetings, Admiral Chen," the Drachnid representative said, their translator struggling to maintain a professional tone. "We wish to, how do you say, vibe check this situation?" Sarah managed to keep a straight face, though it took every ounce of her diplomatic training. "Please, continue. The Drachnid Empire has analyzed your species' unique approach to warfare, and we believe we have finally developed an appropriate response." The representative's crystalline appendages shimmered with what might have been pride. "Is that so?" Sarah reached for her coffee mug, which now featured a holographic display cycling through classic reaction memes. "Yes, observe." The transmission shifted to show a massive Drachnid dreadnought. Its hull, normally a sleek expanse of advanced alloys and weapon systems, had been painted with what appeared to be every meme the Drachnids had managed to catalog, arranged in a collage that looked like someone had given a neural network a sugar rush and access to MS Paint. "We have created," the representative announced with obvious pride, "what your species refers to as a bruh moment." Sarah bit her lips so hard she tasted blood. Behind her, Lieutenant Rodriguez made a sound like a dying whale trying to suppress a laugh. "Furthermore," the Drachnid continued, "we have reprogrammed our tactical AI to incorporate what we believe to be optimal human combat protocols." The Dreadnought's external speakers began broadcasting what Sarah recognized as Baby Shark, mixed with Gregorian chants, while its point defense lasers traced what was unmistakably intended to be the loss meme across nearby asteroids. "I see," Sarah said, her voice remarkably steady. "And this is your formal response to our recent offensives?" "Indeed. We have also prepared a database of what we understand to be devastating human psychological warfare tactics." The representative held up a datapad. "Would you like to hear a knock-knock joke?" That was the moment Sarah Chen, decorated Admiral of the Third Fleet and veteran of countless battles, lost her composure entirely. Her laugh echoed through the command center, setting off a chain reaction of suppressed giggles and snorts from her crew. The Drachnid representative's crystals dimmed in confusion. "Have we incorrectly implemented the protocols?" Sarah wiped tears from her eyes, fighting to regain her composure. No, you've done amazingly well. Really. But I think there's something you should know." "Yes? All of this?" She gestured vaguely at the screenshot of the meme-covered dreadnought. "The dancing ships, the weird broadcasts, the hamster balls. That wasn't actually our secret weapon." The representative's crystals flickered in what might have been confusion. "But your analysis showed what we wanted it to show." Sarah's smile turned slightly predatory. "While you were busy trying to figure out why we were broadcasting Rick Astley at your fleets, did you ever wonder what else we might be doing?" There was a long pause. "What else?" Sarah nodded to Rodriguez, who brought up a tactical display. It showed the positions of every Drachnid fleet in the sector, including the ones they thought were hidden. "Turns out," Sarah said conversationally, "if you get an enemy so focused on trying to understand your apparent insanity, they stop paying attention to the fact that you're also really, really good at actual warfare. Every time you diverted resources to studying our memes, we were gathering intel. Every time you broke formation to try copying our dance moves, we were mapping your tactical responses. And every time you tried to figure out why we were painting our ships with classical art references..." She trailed off meaningfully. The representative's crystals had gone almost completely dark. "The hamster ball ships," they whispered. "They're not actually..." "Oh, they're real enough," Sarah assured them. "But did you ever wonder why they seemed to roll in such specific patterns? Or why our ship's dance movements always followed certain sequences?" Understanding dawned in the representative's crystalline structure. "The movements were coded battlefield algorithms." "Got it in one. Turns out if you make your enemy expect chaos, they stop looking for patterns, even when those patterns are literally dancing right in front of them." Sarah leaned forward. "Would you like to know what else you missed while you were trying to master human meme warfare?" The tactical display shifted again, revealing hundreds of stealth ships that had been hiding in plain sight, their positions disguised by what the Drachnids had dismissed as transmission errors and sensor ghosts. "As we speak," Sarah continued, "every one of your major fleet formations is surrounded. We've been in position for weeks, but you were too busy trying to figure out why we kept sending you pictures of cats to notice. And those talent show broadcasts you've been trying to decode for hidden messages? They were exactly what they appeared to be, except for the fact that watching you waste time analyzing them meant you weren't watching our actual movements. The representative's crystals had started vibrating in what Sarah recognized as severe distress. But the meme cannon? Oh, that was real too. We just figured that if we were going to win this war, we might as well have fun doing it. She shrugged. Humanity's kind of big on multitasking that way. So all of this, the dancing, the jokes, the hamster balls, was partly us being us, and partly the greatest military misdirection in human history. Sarah's smile was genuine now. We figured the best way to hide our actual capabilities was to be so ridiculous that no one would think we could possibly be competent at the same time. Which, by the way, is something else humans are really good at. The representative was silent for a long moment. The Drachnid High Command requests a temporary ceasefire to discuss terms of surrender. Granted. Sarah sat back in her chair. Though I have one condition. Yes? That dreadnought with all the memes painted on it? Keep it that way. Future generations should have a monument to the time an ancient space empire tried to win a war by learning to shitpost. After the transmission ended, Rodriguez turned to Sarah. Ma'am, was all of that true? About the coded battle algorithms and the stealth ships? Most of it. Sarah picked up her coffee mug, which now showed a picture of a smug-looking cat. Though to be fair, some of our best tactical innovations really did come from the dance formations. Turns out the Macarena is surprisingly good for coordinating fleet movements. And Operation Fresh Prince? That was just for fun. She grinned. Never let it be said that humanity can't win a war and generate quality entertainment content at the same time. As the surrender negotiations began, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. The Drachnids had started this war thinking they were dealing with a species of primitive upstarts. They were ending it with a fleet painted in memes and a whole new appreciation for the dangers of underestimating a civilization that could turn anything, literally anything, into a weapon, including, as it turned out, their sense of humor. Lieutenant, she said, standing up, send word to all ships. Operation Victory Dance is a go. Let's show the galaxy what humanity's version of a victory parade looks like. As the fleet began to move into formation, their ships lighting up with synchronized displays while broadcasting what would later be described as the greatest hits of human internet culture, Sarah made a mental note to thank whoever had first suggested using classic dance moves as a basis for combat maneuvers. She had a feeling military doctrine would never be quite the same again. Somewhere in the distance, a hamster ball ship did a perfect barrel roll while projecting a giant holographic neon cat. Sarah raised her coffee mug in salute. Humanity hadn't just won a war. They'd done it in style, and that was maybe the most human victory of all. And that, cadets, Admiral Sarah Chen said, gesturing to the holographic display behind her, is how humanity won the first galactic meme war. The lecture hall at the newly established Galactic Defense Academy was packed with beings from dozens of species. In the 6 months since the Drachnid surrender, the story of humanity's victory had become required study at military academies across known space. A young Zoraxian raised a tentacle. Admiral, is it true that the Drachnid Empire's War College still requires all students to pass an exam on human internet culture? Sarah grinned. Not only is it true, but I'm told their senior instructors still haven't recovered from having to create a curriculum explaining the strategic significance of keyboard cat. A Drachnid cadet in the back row, part of the first class admitted after the peace treaty, shifted uncomfortably. We've had to add 3 new wings to our military archives just to catalog all the memes. The historical analysis department is still trying to determine the tactical relevance of something called Discord kittens. That's the beauty of it, Sarah said, pacing across the stage. Her admiral's uniform now included a small pin featuring Grumpy Cat. It had become the unofficial symbol of the Third Fleet after the war. The truth is, most of it had no tactical relevance at all. But because we made you think it did, you made us waste resources analyzing everything. The Drachnid cadet finished, a note of reluctant admiration in their voice. Even now, our strategic AI keeps trying to find hidden messages in episodes of Earth's Got Talent. Sarah nodded. The best part? Some of our actual tactical communications were hidden in those broadcasts. We just knew you'd be so overwhelmed trying to analyze all of it that you'd miss the real patterns in the noise. A holographic hand raised from the back. one of the AI students that had been admitted after humanity successfully argued that artificial intelligences deserved equal education rights. Query: how did humanity develop the concept of using apparent chaos as a strategic screen? Would you believe it started with a cat video? Sarah pulled up an ancient image on the display. Back in the early days of human internet culture, someone posted a video of their cat knocking things off a table for no apparent reason. Someone else commented that cats are masters of chaos theory because they can appear to be doing random things while actually pursuing very specific goals. She switched the display to show footage from the war's final battle. Someone in R&D saw that comment and thought, what if we applied that principle to space warfare? The result was Operation Keyboard Cat, the first time in military history that a species won a major battle by making their enemies think they were just really bad at maintaining formation, when in fact every seemingly random movement was precisely calculated. Another student, this one a silicon-based crystalline being, chimed in. Is that why the Galactic Council has officially classified human unpredictability as a strategic resource? Partly, Sarah laughed. Though I think that had more to do with what happened at the peace conference. Would you like to hear that story? The lecture hall erupted in enthusiastic agreement. Sarah settled back against her desk, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Picture this: the most serious diplomatic event in recent galactic history. Representatives from every major power gathered to witness the formal end of hostilities. The Drachnid High Command arrives in their most impressive diplomatic vessel. Still painted with memes, by the way, since they hadn't figured out how to remove our quantum paint. She paused for dramatic effect, and humanity shows up in ships designed to look exactly like various foods from Earth. The Third Fleet flagship had been temporarily redesigned to appear as a giant floating pizza, complete with holographic cheese strings. But why? The Drachnid cadet seemed personally pained by this revelation. Because we knew everyone would waste time trying to figure out if it was another tactical innovation, when really we just thought it would be funny. Sarah's grin widened. The Galactic Council spent 3 days analyzing footage of our ships, convinced the food shapes must have some deep strategic significance. They finally classified human unpredictability as a strategic resource when they realized they couldn't tell the difference between when we're being brilliant and when we're just amusing ourselves. She turned back to the main display, bringing up images from the war. The real lesson here isn't about the memes, or the hamster balls, or even the weaponized dad jokes. It's about understanding that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't your technology or your tactics, it's your enemy's assumptions about you. A new image appeared. The famous shot of the Drachnid dreadnought covered in badly drawn memes. The Drachnids lost this war the moment they decided they had us figured out. First they assumed we were primitive, then they assumed our apparent chaos was our only strategy. They never considered that we might be competent and ridiculous at the same time. The AI student's hologram flickered thoughtfully. Query: is this why the Academy now requires all students to take classes in both traditional military strategy and human meme culture? Exactly. Sarah stood up straight, adopting a more serious tone. Because the next time humanity goes to war, which I hope isn't for a very long time, no one will know if our ships are dancing because we're implementing complex battle algorithms, or because someone in the fleet really likes K-pop. And that uncertainty? That's more valuable than any weapon system. She checked the time and smiled. And speaking of uncertainty, I believe it's time for your practical exam. Everyone please proceed to the simulator room. Today's exercise: defending against a coordinated attack by ships performing choreography from Thriller, while broadcasting cooking shows on all frequencies. And remember, some of those movements are random, some are tactical patterns, and some are just because we think Michael Jackson is neat. As the cadets filed out, the Drachnid student lingered behind. Admiral, one last question? Go ahead. The hamster ball ships. Were they really necessary? Sarah's smile could have powered a small sun. Militarily, no. But the look on your admirals' faces when we won the war with ships inspired by pet toys, that was priceless.